And here we are at the end of movement in German turn 2. So this is the first time that I've played the game, of course, and it's the first time that I've done... well, no, it's not. No, this is German turn 2. Yeah, right. So, oh, that's right. The difference being that now a lot of the constraints that are on the first turn are the gloves are off, so a lot more things are going on in turn 2 than happened in turn 1. We had replacements, we had reinforcements, um, and so forth. And let's see, in general then, if we start off in the west, let's see. These chaps, of course, up here in Cherbourg are they can't do much until provoked. So then we've basically had a sort of grouping of the available forces to try and sort of seal this pocket here at Utah Beach. They have got. I'm not sure that they have ZOC bonds necessarily. No, they do. They do have a system of ZOC bonds going all the way across here. They do. Yep. Okay. And the main theme is that the Germans are actually, as we might expect, they're largely defending. They don't have the power to do much in the way of attacks. There are two attacks going to take place way out east, which we'll see in a moment. So basically, attempt there then to hem in the forces at Utah, and then moving across here. Now we don't have ZOC bonds, but we do have at least connected zones of control, which the enemy can't penetrate without having to stop. Okay, going down here. The disrupted markers, remember, will come off. The important thing is they will come off at the end of the German turn, so the Allies will not be attacking those units while they are disrupted, so to speak. That's done towards the end of the German turn in the recovery phase. And as usual, the units that are twisted like this are the units that have moved in the German turn. Got significant forces here at Bayeux because the Germans know how important that is, important crossroads, and also important in the victory conditions. We had some of the German armored units from the 21st division that were sort of down in this region still. They managed to get up to here. They went as far forward as they could. Got this very big, of course, Commonwealth force here coming down towards Caen. And basically, it was all hands to the pump to see what could be done about that. Basically, you had this, let's see, who is that? Just get the old optics going here. Sorry. Yes, the 12th SS. Let's see. So there were 5 units from the 12th SS. They came on over here at what may be Lisieux. Came along here. Reconnaissance unit was able to get up to the actual Caen itself. Then, of course, these 2 units here were further behind. And what they've done, the idea is to, hopefully this is a correct interpretation of the rules. Basically, what these chaps have done is they come up so that they can attack. This is as far as they could go, but they've come up so that they could attack them. And then, of course, if they defeat them, they can advance 2 hexes after combat in any direction. So they don't have to go into there. So they can, for example, let's imagine that they retreat or are destroyed. So these chaps here would be able to go bump, bump into here. So they would by sort of this clever tactic, they would be able to move as far as the reconnaissance unit had moved. Not all of them will actually be able to get in there, but 2 of them will get in there and then 1 will get in there. So we're just trying to get, I know it sounds like, microscopic management, but we're just trying to get as close to Caen, the northern edges of Caen as we can, because we've got the enemy at the gates, basically. So yes, they're going to do hugely one-sided attack on the poor beleaguered British paras there. And then there's a very much more questionable attack going on over here. I mean, it looks like, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 units coming up against these poor chaps here who are in mixed terrain. But the problem is that two of these units, 1 and 2, they're attacking across a flooded hex side. They're attacking from a flooded hex, so they're halved. So this is not good. They've got a 1-to-1 against them. They're worth 4, and these are going to be worth 3? They're going to be worth 7 attacking against them. So that's 1-to-1, and they're willing to risk it because they want to try and get rid of them. And then that would mean that you've got these 4 units here, which are then available without being distracted by the paras to move in a westerly direction to get themselves involved in the fighting in the regions of, the other side of the Orne River. We've also had, just as a point of order, we've also used the German truck movement as well. I gave a couple of extra hexes to an infantry unit at the bottom there. The headquarters unit has moved forward to be able to the idea is to be able to provide artillery support on the next turn. Can't do it on this turn because they move more than 1 hex. Let's see. These units, a black square unit was able to move because the enemy was within 2 hexes. Those chaps were there. So they were within 2 hexes. That meant they were released and able to move. And I think that's the full summary. So what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to do it live. I'm going to resolve the combat, and then I'll sort of have a general tidy up, and then we'll pick up after that. So yes, it was a very interesting turn because it was the first turn where I was sort of doing everything, including reinforcements and replacements and all that sort of thing. It did take a long time. I'm not even going to tell you because I don't want to frighten you. I don't want to give anyone nightmares. And of course, I was sort of micro-analyzing everything, which I love to do. That's one of the benefits of playing solo, that one can analyze everything to death and get the full richness out of the game design. And also, it has to be said, get your money's worth as well. And again, it makes me think of if you were playing this game face to face, by golly, you'd have to have a lot of experience under your belt because you're making complex decisions, and this ain't no Russian campaign. This is there's a lot more going on in the decisions that you're making. So anyway, let's return after combat. At the very end of the German player turn, we had our combat down here on the outskirts of Caen, and let's see, so there was a unit of paras here that were in bad shape, and they were blasted basically by the 12th SS division from Troarn. And so they were destroyed, and then the units, 2 of the units advanced 1-2 to this position on the outskirts. Well, it's in Caen, and then 1 stopped off here. Then the other combat that took place was up here, which is a very much more stretch of the imagination sort of a proposition. And sure enough, the attackers suffered 1 step loss from this unit here, and that's what happened in the combat. Beyond which, all the units have now been straightened up. In the German recovery phase, we removed the replacement and disrupted markers. I also made a correction that I had missed earlier, and that was that we have a British glider brigade that was here, And in the back of my mind, I'd been thinking, oh well, that's something we deal with in the British turn, but it isn't. It's in the initial phase, which of course, the initial phase is at the beginning of the game turn, and affects both sides. So that was supposed to have arrived there at the very beginning, but it actually didn't. It didn't make any difference in terms of what the German forces were allowed to do. So anyway, that arrived there with no scattering, and is in good shape. A powerful unit. I mean, it's a 5-3 there. And then also we had the glider regiment belonging to the 82nd. These chaps up here. And so they came on to this location here, and they did actually scatter and suffered one step loss. Yeah, let's see. We also had this strong point has been out of out of supply now for 2 turns. So we flipped that over to the red side, and we had to roll on the attrition table to see the isolation table, whatever it's called, to see if they were going to lose a step, which they didn't. Okay, so I guess they've got plenty of tasty kartoffeln down in the basement or something like that to survive on. So they're plucky chaps, and they're still there. And yeah, so we'll just do a broad sweep now of the overall picture. So here we are, way out in the east, and we move slowly along to Bayeux, and then we come to Isigny-sur-Mer and Saint-Mère-Église, Vallon, and all the way up to Cherbourg. Okay, and in terms of the overall strategic situation, well, of course, the important thing, of course, is to keep a weather eye, as they say, on the reinforcements, because it's all very well what we're looking at now, but of course, what's going to happen next turn? Next turn, of course, or the very next turn, is the Allied player turn, in which case, the Allied player is going to go shopping with reinforcement points to buy some nice juicy units to land at the beaches. Oh, I didn't mention this, but of course we can also see, if we go up to turn 7 here, we can see the 2 mulberry markers, because the mulberries have been started up. And let's see, what else have we got? The construction, mulberry construction. Yeah, so down here, as I said, the Allies here are actually surrounded by Zoclocks, but these chaps here, for example, I mean, we can see at a glance that although they are in flooded terrain, we can see that there's definitely a weak point there. But of course, it's not particularly the direction that the Allies would want to be attacking down here at this point. They want to be presumably heading up there to Cherbourg to take that lot out. And then the Germans are thin in some nasty terrain down here. Not a lot of Allied forces there, but of course this lot is going to show up next turn. Yes. Then down here, there's a concern certainly for the Germans that the enemy is only 2 hexes away from Caen itself, but they have now moved in quite a lot of power to be able to try to hold them off. We shall see. And right, well, that's a bit of a wrap for now, I think. And I say, here's to it. So here we are. It's June 8th, 1944, the beginning of game turn 3, right at the beginning of the turn. We can see that in turn 2 then, the Allies, they had a fair amount of movement, certainly in the region of Omaha, very congested at Utah. let's see. There was some movement down in this sort of direction here. They're making trying to make sure that they can keep the Germans obviously away from their beaches. They don't want the Germans to be able to get adjacent to their beach hexes. That will interfere with things, as one might imagine. But they have not made much punchy progress besides that. And they've got lots of armored units which are on their last legs. So that's definitely something they're going to have to watch very closely. As we can see, we look at the American units up here. We've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, well, maybe not as many as I thought. And then over in the Commonwealth sector here, we go 1, 2, yeah, okay. Let's see, just little bits and pieces, I suppose. There was an action here. The Allies lost a step. Interesting point. We had some reserve movement here. They were hoping that if they could have kicked them really hard, then this stack here was in reserve there and was ready to move up here, but didn't happen. So instead, they reinforced down here because they didn't like the look at the Fallschirmjäger. Which might have been able to, if they felt particularly gutsy, launch some sort of counterattack, leaving Corentin behind and moving forward up there, but they decided to move down and block them instead. The idea around here was to be able to kick this unit out of here, which was successful, very, very much outgunned, and was kicked down. There were 2 units there. One of them was lost. They were both small units. One is down here, having retreated down to here. They're keeping an eye on this unit here to make sure that it can't move up to this hex here freely, because that is next to Omaha Beach, which we don't want to do. One thing to keep in mind with the Rangers at Pointe du Hoc is that if the enemy is more than 4 hexes away, they're withdrawn. So from Pointe du Hoc, so the enemy right now they're 1, 2, 3. So I suppose if there were 4, they have to be more than 4, so they'd have to be 2 hexes further away. So that's still a while off. Anyway, then we had a big attack. Yeah, the Allied planners got themselves into a bit of a puzzle here. These chaps were at least surrounded. There were 2 units there. One of them was destroyed. They were surrounded by the Allies, but the Americans and the British cannot attack. They can defend together, but they cannot attack together. So although they had these 2 nice big stacks, only one of them was allowed to attack. You are allowed to attack 1 hex beyond your army boundary line. So there's the army boundary line coming down here. So they actually had better forces. So the Americans there attacked the Germans on the other side of the boundary line. And I think they probably had an exchange, which is why they've been clipped down there. And they lost a unit, okay? And then further down here, the unit was lost from the Germans there, okay? I think that was an exchange, yes. There was a determined defense here. The 88 unit that was there was lost, and the Canadians lost a step there. And then down here was just some shuffling. There was no attacking going on. And one thing that the Allied commander needs to concern himself with is that there are victory points to be had for the drop zones. So, for example, there's one there that is currently unoccupied. I don't know up here which ones might be occupied. I suppose I should know. I'll have to find out which ones might be occupied by German forces. Let's have a look. No, not that one. No, not that one. What about this one? No. Okay, so definitely the Allies are going to want to grab that one. Of course, they've got a small quantity of 12th SS that might like to deny them that opportunity. And then, of course, up here around Sommet-Église, we have this one here, this drop zone. So the Allies had better do something about that one. And yeah, so there's not a whole lot. If you look at what's here, there's not whole lot here that is. Got a bit of glare there. Sorry, not a whole lot here that left for the Allies to sort of destroy, and then hopefully they'd be able to sort of join themselves completely up. But of course, we're about to see more. Of course, more German reinforcements and so forth. The weather hasn't been rolled for yet, so we'll see what happens. And I say let's press on. All right, this time we're at the end of the German turn 3, which is June 8th. And just a brief summary here. We did have an attack, which was down here by these units. They attacked the American Airborne Forces and pushed them out of this hex here. So they retreated back to here. They advanced forward to there. So they've actually tightened the grip on the forces here. Basically, I think this stack here has been beefed up, which has now got, I think it's got 2 4s and a 2 in there. We had some chaps, of course, come down from here and come down from there as they appeared from the 709th and the 243rd. Let's see. These chaps still out of supply, but they're still doing fine. Then we had some strategic moves, the first time they've been used, which was to get the fresh reinforcements that had come on down in this area down here. And they used a strategic move, which means they can move twice as far, but they want to make sure that they end the move in a position where they can't be attacked by the enemy because they're in a vulnerable formation, presumably. They get no defensive combat bonus. And let's see, other than that, we had various Luftwaffe 88s were, not that one, but sorry, there's one there. It was sent forward. That was normal movement up to here. Okay. We had a shift where we had units from the 21st moved over in this direction to be able to shore up the line. We've had the SS 12th has gone up here, and here they've attacked, and they did destroy one step there. They lost a step. That was an exchange. Here we had the airborne, who were surrounded, pretty much surrounded. And no, they weren't surrounded. They were almost surrounded. Low value sort of an attack because still a lot of it was coming either from or across flooded hex side. And I hope I did it correctly, because it said that if they're retreating and they would end up overstacked, then they keep moving until they're no longer overstacked. So as I put it, I moved them from here. They were there, and I moved them from there into there, then into there, then into there, then into there. I mean, according to me, that's allowed. And then, according to my reading of the rules, but the first time I played the game, I could be wrong. So they ended up there, disrupted. Let's see, a supply check was done and found that now all 3 of those strong points are out of supply, because we can see they're basically surrounded by units, and the only gap is here. And if you do 2 consecutive hexes through enemy ZOC, that means the supply is broken. So yeah, they're out of supply. And let's see, I think that's yeah, so interesting developments. So in the big picture, I would say the big picture is that yeah, the lodgement that they have here at Utah shrunk this turn, and that got beefed up. So things aren't looking so great at Utah. Something has to be made to happen. In the center, things are spread pretty thin, and we've got all this. There's a lot of power here, as it were, that can come south. Um, but yeah, all very interesting stuff. So battery's about to go on the camera. So we're now going to the Allied turn for turn 3, June 8th. And here we are at the complete end of turn 3, June 8th. So the Allies have just completed their turn. We've had some interesting developments. Basically, there were lots of attacks. I think there were attacks in 5 different locations, and 4 of them, by the look of it from here, certainly produced a result that caused the enemy to retreat. So let's take a look. Significantly over here at Utah, we've got units of the 101st here with their armored support were able to push these chaps backwards. So now they've been able to cross over the Douve, and they're, pressing on in that direction, which, of course, the more they do that, the more it serves to isolate or separate it. I wouldn't say isolate, but separate the fairly powerful, relatively powerful Fallschirmjäger, which are there at, they're at Carentan. That's the town itself there, and the word is underneath them, the label. Yes, so good result there, pushing forward. The rest of the moves, I suppose, were just sort of generally consolidating the front. Then we had the last remaining unit or units that were here, very small units, and they were clobbered resoundingly by forces coming west here from Omaha, and pushed, as we can see, over the the Vier, and so now the Allies have been able to move in to Isigny-sur-Mer, and they're disrupted on the other side of it, and there's not much left of them. I think we can see, regular troops, but they only got a strength of 2. Okay. Then, moving further eastward, we've got, got a punching going on here. There's pushed forces back here. I'm sure these forces would probably be what would they be? They would be, if anything, they'd probably be the 21st that was here first on the scene, I think it was, wasn't it? The 21st? Yeah, the 21st. Is it Panzer? Pushed back there with 2 defeats. And let's see. That's right. Yes, of course. And concentrate. Importantly, these chaps, of course, came from Bayeux. So Bayeux has fallen. And the Allies have pushed forward the boundary line now. Wiggles a bit here. Obviously, it comes all the way along here and then wiggles there and goes back to there. Okay. But they've got Bayeux. And let's see, according to the historical record on the turn track up there, it said that Bayeux fell on the 2nd, and these chaps have captured it on the 3rd. So there we go, 1 day behind, but plucky chaps, well done, chaps. And time to brew up a cup of tea, I think. Yes. Pressing on, let's see. So we've got this dreadful clear terrain here that no one really wants to be in. And yes, a big bend in the line there, I suppose. Well, yeah, the deployment of the forces bends in the line, but in terms of zones of control, we've still got zone of control here and zone of control there, so no one's going to waltz through that. Okay. And then I suppose that's the end of our defeats that we're looking at for the Allies inflicted upon the Germans. There was a loss here. There were 2 twos there, and one of those was destroyed, and they took a step loss. And I think here there may have been, let's see, not quite sure what happened there. There may have been a very small loss incurred there, perhaps. And let's see, besides that, there was quite extensive use of reserve movement on the board. It was used in 3 different places. Um, would that be correct? Yes, it would be correct. 3 or 4 different places, and it's coming in handy. I'm coming to get the hang of it now. We still haven't had a 1-2 punch somewhere where somebody punches through and then along comes a reserve to actually move forward and introduce another round of combat. That hasn't actually happened anywhere yet, which is probably on the first few turns was probably due to my unfamiliarity with the rules and reluctance to get into it. But I'm ready to go now. Yes, so all very interesting stuff. Supply was checked, of course, and the allies are all supplied. Tidied up all the counters, yes, of course. So now we're going to move forward to turn 4, June 9th, and we'll see what we get. Let's kind of come back a little bit here, and let's see. There we go. There's the general overall picture. Very good. And then, of course, mysteriously, up in this direction, we see some German reinforcements of a sort. And here we are at the end of the German turn 4, which is June 9th. And we actually had no combat. There were no German attacks, nowhere, no opportunities basically that the German commander could see worth prosecuting. The main thing being getting units into position to defend, as we might imagine. So in terms of, well, obviously no units have been no, actually some units have been lost. Several units were lost due to isolation and attrition. So we can see that the what is that, Vierville, I think that is, here that finally gave up. And then we also had 2 down here. I think we had one here and here, the radar station, and also what is that? Let's see. Langrune. So those 2 there. That one has now gone red and may fall soon. Let's see. As far as movement goes, well, basically we had some reinforcements. Of course, 1 unit came in from here, 1 unit came in from here. It was clear weather today, so we've got the Allies have their 2 Air Force units, 1, 2 there and 1, 2 there, ready to be involved in either strafing or attacking, supporting an attack, or what was the other one? Being Jabos, but that only happens if the Germans attack, and they didn't attack, so we didn't see that. Strafing would be good against isolated silhouetted units, especially if they are traveling, what is it? If they're traveling in strategic movement. So the Germans were very mindful of the risks involved of using strategic movement in this particular day. And of course, the road movement for non-mechanized German units was faster, became 1/3 instead of a half movement point to move on a road, which gave a lot of increased speed to the non-mechanized units, as we might imagine. So basically, units were, a little bit of beefing up was done here to just sort of beef up the defenses. And then let's see. Same thing here, of course. So that got beefed up. Reinforced somewhat. Pretty much most places would have happened. Panzerlehr showing up in more force now. I mean, they've got as far forward as here, but we've got 3 of them are stacked here at Caumont. and that's as far as they could get. And let's see, we've got some reinforcements here because things are looking pretty thin here. And the SS units that were in Caen there decided to go forward into the front line. They're still in a town there, if not a city. Wanted to get more strength up front. And then we also had reinforcements, not particularly spectacular, but we did have some reinforcements come on from way out east over here, and they shot along the road to get to this point here. So there are, what are there? There are 8 combat points there. One of them is an Ost unit, but at least we've got some feet on the ground that'll be able to come in here. And it certainly would be nice if they could do something to those airborne chaps that are on the other side of the river, but they never seem to have quite enough strength to do that. So let's see, that's what's going on there. And yeah, so because there were no attacks, that's really all there is to report. But now we move to the Allied turn for June 9th, and because we've got cleaner weather and they've got those, they now have 2 Air Force, 2 American and 2 British Air Force markers. So those are 4 column shifts that can be used arbitrarily where the Allied commander sees fit. And maybe that might produce some holes being punched as we well, I mean, as we might imagine. And as we can see, the mysterious German reinforcements have got a bit closer.